Meeting is being recorded. So, welcome to everybody from across the lake, and a quick review of the agenda. We're going to start out with our friend Coco Lavalcorn give us a welcoming song. She's won the Songwriter of the Year award offered by the Canadian. She can explain what that award is, but she's Songwriter of the Year. And then Lee Grigg will give us a land acknowledgement. And then we'll hear from Abby Ertel from Huron Pines about Lake Huron Forever in more detail. Then we'll do a quick go round just to understand who else is at the table. We've got some polls going on. And then we've got presentations from 5 different organizations. And then by that time, it will be close to 4 o'clock. So I also just want to say there are a good number of people who aren't at this meeting who really should be, and the next time we do it, they will be. So apologies to those people because it was sort of by invite, but I know I'm learning more and more about groups that are out there, and we'll add them to the list in the future. So other than that, we'll finish up with just some open discussion as far as what's next for the Lake Huron Forever group. And unless there's any just upfront questions that anybody has, I think we'll move ahead and ask Coco Love Alcorn to take the screen and offer her fabulous version of the River Song. Over to you, Coco. There you are.
Okay, hey. Yeah, so this is a song that I wrote about 6 years ago, and it's called The River. And I wrote it using one of these things. This is a 5-track looper, and it allows me to record segments of my voice and layer them. Yeah, and here we go. Here's The River. This song is pretty special to me. It's a song that fell out of me one afternoon. I was just playing with this thing and singing, and it almost felt like the song wrote itself in a bizarre way. And I'm just so thankful that I was home that afternoon for that to happen. And choirs from all over the world have been singing this song. Like, I've lost count. Well over 300 choirs have sung this song, and it's connected me to the world of community singing. And so I've shifted from, after years and years of being a touring singer, songwriter, performer, I've shifted and I'm now a virtual Zoom choir leader. So if anyone wants to sing in a choir this summer, come find me. Wahoo! Anyway, I'm going to sing this song for you guys. This is The River, and I don't have to say anything more about rivers because I guess we're all here because we all think water's pretty cool, right? Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 The river is a healer, the river is a sage, the river knows no end and the river feels no age. The river is a leader every single day. It's living in the moment and it always finds a way. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down, down to the water, by the water I feel whole. River calls me over, it's calling out my name. In the day and in the night, I hear that river all the same. It's calling me over, calling out my pain. Oh, a river gathers tears just like a river gathers rain. Water heal, water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. The river is a traveler, always on the go. A river never worries if it's fast or if it's slow. River, take me to where I need to go. Oh, and I will just relax and let the river flow. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. Water heal my body, water heal my soul. When I go down to the water, by the water I feel whole. Water heal my body, heal my soul. Heal my soul. When I go down to the water I feel whole. When I go down to the water, when I go down to the water, when I go down to the water, it doesn't matter what side we are on the border, doesn't matter what side of the border, we're gonna go down to the water. It doesn't matter what side of the border, we're gonna go down to the water. Doesn't matter what side of the border, we're gonna go down to the water. Doesn't matter what side of the border, we're gonna go down to the water. Doesn't matter what side of the border, we're gonna go down to the water. When I go down to the water, by the water, I feel whole. All right, thanks so much.
Wow, awesome.
That was a great little modification of the song.
Oh yeah, you got to make it in the moment. It's all about being in the moment. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, well, thanks for having me. Carry on with your good work.
Coco, that was amazing.
We'll see you on the street.
Sounds good.
Okay. Wow, what a great way. And thanks for coming. And that's the end of the meeting. No, it's not. That's a great way to start a meeting, though, for sure. And more people that are doing the Zoom things are adding some nice arts and culture, music aspects to it that just take the load off a little bit. So here's to having a bit of the load taken off. And at this point, I'll pass it over to, he's the chair of the Sustainability Network, Lee Gregg, who's going to offer us a land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Barry. That was amazing. That was absolutely incredible. And it's great to see such a long list of heavy hitters here in the organizations around the lake. Thanks. Although we're meeting all online here, we at GB SUSNet, Grey Bruce Sustainability Network, we recognize that we're all standing and working and living on traditional Indigenous land. In our region, that means the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation and the people of the Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe and the Odawa and the Potawatomi nations. And additionally, we thank the Chippewa-Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, for taking such great care of this land. And personally, I thank our Indigenous neighbors here for respecting nature. It's amazing, and I often reflect on past injustices So starting with settler culture through the treaty processes, and even today with the systemic inequality that we see. Um, but I want to wish everyone a great meeting here, and I'll talk to you later in the meeting. Back to you, Barry.
Okay, thanks, Lee, because it certainly is an honor and a privilege to be in the places that we live, so close to bodies of water that refresh the landscape and refresh our air and do all kinds and refresh our bodies. So thanks very much for that acknowledgement. And next up, I'm going to pass it over to Abby, who most of you know from Huron Pines, and she's going to just give us a brief kind of overview of Lake Huron Forever, what it's a bit of history, goals, and a bit of the path forward. So I'm not even sure where you are, Abby, but you're there somewhere. There you are.
Right here. Yeah, just
Okay.
give me just a couple of seconds here to share my screen
Okay.
and start the
Got it.
show.
Yep.
Okay, we see that, everyone?
Looks great.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm truly very excited to be here today and that this Learning Circle program is happening. It's been a goal since the beginning, since Lake Huron Forever was first sort of idealized and understood by the group of core partners that we've been working with, to have folks from both sides of the lake who are working in similar sectors in similar ways to be able to come together and share and learn together. So I'm very grateful to Barry and Grey Bruce Sustainability Network for taking the lead on pulling one of these together for us. And our hope is that we'll have several more. And thanks to all of you for holding the space and taking the time and being part of today's conversation. So I am Abby Ertel. I also go by Abigail, so you might see both. I work for Huron Pines as the Community Program Director, but for the last couple of years, I've been in the role of liaison for the Lake Huron Forever initiative. And so I'm going to take some time today just to give you a high-level overview of what this initiative is all about and what we're hoping it will grow into in the next several years. First, I'm going to take you way back, if you can remember, before COVID, which I do some days and some days I don't. But in 2019, two groups, the Council of Michigan Foundations, which is an umbrella organization for community foundations in Michigan, and the Great Lakes Protection Fund, which is an entity that has interest philanthropically and natural resource-wise in the Great Lakes watershed, came together and felt that a really important project would be for community foundations and technical partners to work together to understand connections that communities have to water and to the Great Lakes, and how that water creates strong communities, vibrant communities in the future, and understand maybe what threats might be or a particular area where these groups could come together and coalesce around and have some impact. So a call was put out to shoreline community foundations around the Great Lakes to be a part of this. And they had 27 community foundations from across the basin put their hands up and say, yes, we think this is important, we want to be part of it. So out of that was formed 6 regional teams. There's 2 for Lake Michigan, which is why there are 6. But for us, and so those 6 teams became part of the original partnership that was called the Great Lakes One Water Partnership. So if you've heard that or heard Barry talk about it, or people on the Michigan side have heard that, that was the inception of this. It has changed a little bit over the couple of years, and we're now under the moniker of the One Water Partnership, which I think Barry referenced. We're all here because we share one water. And our particular project and focus for Lake Huron is Lake Huron Forever. So when that call went out to community foundations, Lake Huron was very lucky and had the good opportunity that 3 community foundations put their hand up and said, yes, we want to be a part of this. Very grateful to Stuart Reed and Community Foundation Grey Bruce for saying they wanted to be part of it, because that makes us a binational team. And we are actually the only binational team in the partnership. So we have a lot of strength in that. We have an opportunity for large scale impact. We have the opportunity to learn from each other and understand and gain perspective. on Lake Huron and the challenges and the opportunities that we have in our communities. So that is an important component of our work. The other two community foundations, if you're not familiar with them, are Bay Area Community Foundation, which is located in Bay City, right around Saginaw Bay, and then Community Foundation of Northeast Michigan, which is housed in Alpena, up in the northeast part of Michigan. And with those three community foundations, our original service area, if you will, for the work that we were doing was 13 counties around Lake Huron. So this is a picture of our core team, the folks we started with. This is a team building opportunity that we had and hosted in Bay City when we could still travel with some freedom and flexibility. It was great to have that face-to-face opportunity. So in addition to Huron Pines, Graybush Sustainability Network, and the three community foundations that I mentioned, our original 4 partners on the Michigan side also included Saginaw Basin Land Conservancy, who we know we have representation here today from those great folks. The Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, which is a state agency here in Michigan, and the Saginaw Bay Watershed Initiative Network, which is a philanthropic network very much focused on Saginaw Bay and the natural resources and water resources of that part of Lake Huron. On the Ontario side, we also had Grey Sauble Conservation Authority represented to help us build out the task, which we were all given, was an action agenda. So how were we going to look at water quality and the connection to community and community vibrancy, and what tasks were we going to move forward in order to achieve an overarching goal? So we did that. We did a lot of that work in Bay City on that day. One of the things we had to talk about was how we were going to relate to one another, because as I mentioned, we are the only binational team. And so we recognize that even though we have some shared challenges, some shared opportunities, some shared perspective, we still have a lot of differences on either side of the border, and how funding works, or how local government regulation works, or how we interact with partners and those types of things. So we did put together a structure, and I just put this up here so that you can see sort of the relationship. So we are guided by our action agenda, which I'm going to dive into in a little more detail here in the next couple of slides. We do have a steering committee, which still retains our representation from our 3 community foundations and a couple of core technical partners, and they're really a decision-making entity for the way that we move forward. So they're informed by what's happening in Michigan, Ontario, what it looks like long-term and the long-term vision for Lake Huron Forever, and they make some decisions and set some strategies and the ways to move forward. You'll see the liaison off to the side. So my job is to communicate up and down and across the relationships. And then we decided we needed a Michigan project team and an Ontario project team to represent the uniqueness of where we're working. Samanthanellis, who you'll hear from in a little bit, is our Michigan project team lead. Barry is our Ontario project team lead. And this is really the area of Lake Huron Forever where we're hoping folks who are participating today may take a greater interest and want to interact a little bit more deeply with Samantha and Barry and some of our core partners to be able to inform potential projects or programs or needs or things that we can collaborate across the lake for our shared water. So getting into the action agenda a little bit, it is a 3-year action plan, so it goes through 2022. We are in year 2. We had some, a little bit of slowdown with COVID, so there's some opportunities for some review and reflection there. But we were tasked to make a 3-year action plan and coalesce around a unified vision and goal. And so you can see those 2 things here on the screen. Essentially, our vision is that our Lake Huron communities are ready to identify and implement nature-based solutions, engage their citizens in a robust way in order to provide safe, accessible water and strong, vibrant communities in the future around our Lake Huron. And the overarching goal to achieve that vision is that we're really increasing our community leader knowledge and confidence in order to make decisions that do protect water and do protect our community quality of life, particularly through stormwater, addressing stormwater with nature-based solutions, and thinking about community planning decisions. So where does water fall for you? How does your community identify with it? What's the value for it? And then institutionalize that in the decisions that you're making and feel confident in your ability to do that. So some of the goals that we have through that in terms of reaching that overarching vision, is to look at how we interact across the lake, peer-to-peer learning. How do we engage deeply with community leaders to even create a relationship? How do we gather data that maybe we need that, in order to help inform decisions? And how do we collectively sort of elevate Lake Huron in priority, both for our local leaders, our residents, and our funders? And the framework that we have stepped out in order to do that is to engage, to activate, and sustain. So this is the framework for Lake Huron Forever, right? So if you think about a car and you think about that the outer shell of the car, and then all the things that the car houses in terms of your seats and your radio and the engine and all those things, Lake Huron Forever is the outside of that car. And then the programs that we put in place are sort of the inside pieces, where we're going to engage with local communities to have direct one-on-one conversations about what's important to them, what do they need to move forward, how do they want to protect water quality or natural resources around Lake Huron. And then we activate in terms of matching up resources, tools, training, whatever makes sense to that particular community's unique needs and goals. And then we look to sustain that work through ongoing programming, increased skill and training development with leaders so that they're confident to go out to their constituency and talk about this, funding, collaborative funding, those types of things. So in order to sort of to give you some example of what engage, activate, and sustain looks like, it's a wordy slide, but it shows how working through this framework for the last couple of years is starting to provide some forward momentum for Lake Huron Forever and some real opportunities. So we've had the ability to work closely with a few organizations who are represented here today, both on the Michigan and Ontario side. So Saginaw Basin Land Conservancy through Lake Huron Forever has been able to work with a local township to do an assessment of ordinances and provide some sample language that helps to position water quality and natural resource protection maybe a little more strongly within those local ordinances and framework. And that will be a pilot that can be shared. So that's an organization that we certainly can learn more from. And that's an engagement. That's sitting down, talking to a community, taking in some information, doing some information gathering, and then providing some really good next steps. In Alpena, we've been able to work with Friends of Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary on a green roof project. So seeing that project be implemented, so activating some work related to stormwater and green infrastructure in that community on the Michigan side. But we're also still engaging with that community too at the municipal leadership level to do a stormwater assessment. So essentially going out into their community, understanding how stormwater runs off the land, where it goes, how much goes to a particular place, and what the impacts might be because of that, and then set up tangible projects. We've also been able to work with the Lake Huron Center for Coastal Conservation to provide support to the Green Ribbon Champion program, increase capacity, allow them to expand that program to a new community in order to engage those community leaders and community residents, but also activate some coastal dune restoration and protection work on the ground as well. Rogers City in Michigan certainly is in the activate section. We all know that city, right, that has 17 plans, but they never actually implement anything in the plan. Well, Rogers City always had good intentions and they did their planning and they did their homework, but they were unable to really kind of move those projects forward. So we've been able to have regular communication with their city council, and their mayor is incredibly invested, and we have been able to put together some funding proposals to help them actually implement projects on the ground. And then Aubrey, Michigan, which I'm not going to spend too much time on. Samantha's going to talk about that in a little bit, but this is our smallest coastal community, 800 people, I think, but they've been at the forefront of really wanting to drive home the fact that their local natural resources, and in particular Lake Huron, is incredibly important to their quality of life, their economy, and who they are as a community. And so they've been able to identify projects, collect data, make decisions at city council to elevate water quality as important. And they're really getting ready to move into sustain by taking a pledge and a commitment to continuing to lead this work continuing to engage partners and do good things for Lake Huron. This is a slide about funding. And I mean, I know we all have a funding challenge, right? We all experience it. Huron Pines does certainly for our projects, and we have in the first couple of years for Lake Huron Forever, to have funders understand what we're trying to do, what the long-term impact is, how to have even the capacity and the resources to leverage larger amounts of money to do good work on the ground. Well, this slide all contains funding that Lake Huron Forever has been able to leverage over the last couple of years. And so we have down at the bottom, you see the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes Energy, Saginaw Bay Wind, our community foundation partners, and these are core partners who are now putting their own money towards movement and momentum of Lake Huron Forever and the good work that we're doing. Great Lakes Protection Fund still supports at a level to help us with facilitation and coordination. Sustain Our Great Lakes up in the top, that's a grant that Huron Pines was awarded specifically for projects related to Lake Huron Forever that were identified through assessments, through conversations with community members to understand their needs and the opportunities. And we were able to develop a scope of work that was funded in several coastal communities to the tune of $300,000. And then these three over here, Partners for Places, the Lake-wide Action and Management Plan, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has a funding opportunity called the Great Lakes Fish, Great Lakes Fish. Oh my goodness. Help me out, Samantha. Great Lakes Fish and Wildlife Restoration Act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
Great Lakes Fish and Wildlife Restoration Act. We love our acronyms, right? They're long, and when you're in a presentation, you trip over them. But the important thing about Partners for Places, the Lake-wide Action and Management Plan, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service funding opportunity is that they are pots of money that can be binational. And so we've been able to start some conversation with these partners about what we're doing in Ontario, what we're doing in Michigan, in order to be able to leverage funding. And so I think the real message here for everyone is, yes, funding can be challenging for all of us, but there's power in this network, and there's power in being able to sit down and understand what are the projects, what are the education programs, what are the relationships that we need to build to protect our shared water of Lake Huron, and then work together to leverage those resources. And that's one of the things that we're really hoping to do over the next couple of years as we broaden our network out here. So that takes me to what's next. We do have some changes at the partnership level. As I mentioned, Great Lakes One Water isn't something that we say anymore. We say One Water Partnership. And that's just a function of, leadership change in some organizations. But what that means for us is that we've had a stronger resolve around Lake Huron Forever. That's what we're talking about now. That's the initiative. That's what we're trying to work forward, well beyond any funding that we would have received from our original funders in the beginning. And we can be strategic about leveraging our network and funding opportunities. We're able to provide some streamlined messaging and support for people to connect online, to have the language they need to talk about why Lake Huron Forever is important. And we really want to focus on that sustaining. And that's why we've brought everybody together here today, because we want some deeper involvement with folks who are doing good work in our coastal communities around Lake Huron, to be able to learn from you, to be able to support the work that you're doing, to be able to bring folks together and tackle challenges that we all face with stormwater and green infrastructure and water quality work. And we need to build out our next 3 years of work and priorities. So, having some ongoing conversation with this network of people about what is it that you need to do, what's your vision, what's your goal, and how can we support you collaboratively in doing that is really a big push and a big focus for Lake Huron Forever going forward. I have no idea what time it is, but I think I'm at the end of my time. And so here is my contact information, and I will ask those of you who are helping me facilitate if there's any time for questions. If there's not, I'd encourage people to put questions about Lake Huron Forever in the chat, and we can collect those and get you answers to those questions either outside of this opportunity or a little later in the agenda. So thank you very much.
Abby, thanks so much. And obviously, we've got a lot going on today in terms of presentations and opportunities for people to connect with each other. And even though 2 hours is a long time, we will not have time to connect with everybody. And so I encourage you to fill out the slide deck and really take an opportunity to connect with people that maybe didn't have a chance to talk with today. And I will be pulling the plug subtly on people who are talking too much. I didn't do that, Abby, but it was, you did pretty well holding to time. So
You should have. I'm always a fan of just like, the cane coming across the stage.
Yeah,
And
but no, it was good. And it's a very important part of today. It lays the foundation, at minimum, the theoretical foundation of what Lake Huron Forever is and how much potential there is moving forward. So next up, we're going to do this is a circle, a learning circle. It's a bit weird because we're not in a circle. I love being in a circle and going around, but I'm going to throw it over to Samantha to help manage just going around. The images of people on the screen look different for everybody. So Samantha's just going to lead us through identifying who's up next, and just give us your name, your organization, and really just one silver lining that you've experienced in your organization in the midst of all that's going on. Is there a silver lining? Is there one positive outcome that's happening as a result of all this, not only COVID, but climate change and all the other crazy things that go on in the world and in our neck of the woods? So over to you, Samantha. Maybe start with yourself.
Yep, I will start. So I'm Samanthanellis. I'm the Water Program Director at Huron Pines. I'm also the Michigan Project Team Lead for Lake Huron Forever. The silver lining I identified over the past year is that we see so many more people turning to the outdoors over the past year, and hoping, working to keep that up, and for the health and well-being of our communities, and also the appreciation and protection of our natural resources. So I'm just going to go off the participant list, top to bottom, and we will go from there. So first up is Biosphere Association. I'm not sure who is representing there, but you're first on the list.
That's Elizabeth Thorne. Elizabeth, can you unmute?
No, you're still muted.
All right.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. My name is Elizabeth Thorne, and I'm the chair of the organization. And we are engaged in a multitude of activities. We've been involved in water quality since 2012. And in terms of a silver lining, I guess one of the things that has been most promising, not directly related to water, is that we were, I guess, one of 20 organizations out of 400 that were selected for a major climate action grant. So we have a number of initiatives related to climate action, and that has been extremely important to the mandate of the organization. So we're very pleased that we're able to do that.
Great, thank you. Next up, Bruce Davidson.
Hi, I'm Bruce Davidson. I'm a program coordinator with the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network, and right now spending a lot of time, which I'll talk a little bit about later, with Elephant Thoughts, which is a not-for-profit charity that has a retreat just outside Durham, Ontario, and we're doing some great things there. Silver lining, Zoom has introduced us to more people, and it's also the other silver lining is that we realize how much it's important to meet in person.
Definitely true, both accounts. Thanks, Bruce. Next on my list is the person who's calling in. Looks like they're from Michigan, 989 number.
980, that's Brandon Schroeder. and I'm happy to be here. I'm an extension educator with Michigan Sea Grant and Michigan State University Extension. Our work in Northern Lake Huron covers the range from coastal tourism to fisheries to youth development. But my silver lining is still thinking about, even in a pandemic, the power of youth voices in Great Lakes stewardship conversations.
Thanks, Brandon. Caroline, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Caroline Keeson at Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council. We're based in Petoskey, Michigan. Our service area is Northern Michigan, about 4 counties. And I would say my silver lining is that we are still able to protect water resources, whether we're meeting in person, in the office, or in the field. You know, it's definitely a job that because it's outside, it can be done even during a pandemic, which is a good part of it.
Thanks, Caroline. Erin?
Hello, my name is Erin Laurie, and I'm the Executive Director of the Lake Huron Center for Coastal Conservation. We're a registered charity located in Goderich, Ontario. And I think a silver lining for us in the past year is that we were able to quickly switch to being an entirely virtual organization and pivot all of our programs to a more digital focus. So we've learned a lot over the past year, and I think it's going to help us expand our reach in the future. We received a grant this year to develop a new citizen science monitoring app that we're really excited about to take our program into the future.
Thanks, Erin. Sounds exciting. Heather Sargent, you're up next.
I'm Heather Sargent, and I'm the Communications Director for Georgian Bay Forever. We're a charity that is dedicated to scientific research and education on Georgian Bay's aquatic ecosystem. I think everyone's taken a lot of the good things out of what's happening with COVID, but I will say one positive thing. A bill, an Ontario bill, private members bill by MPP Miller, Bill 228, just got royal assent last week. And that in 2 years, it will make unencapsulated polystyrene foam used in docks and buoys illegal to sell in Ontario. So we won't be picking up that foam in the future.
You're on mute, Sam.
Oh, Sam, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes. Next up is Joanne, and then after Joanne, Katie Wolf will be up.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing us to attend. I'm Joan Harbinson. I am the manager of water resources at Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Our conservation authority is 4,632 square kilometers and fairly large watershed outletting, of course, to Lake Huron. Lots of programming going on for sure, and with COVID, our outreach to children and youth has kind of been curbed, as has our outreach to the agricultural community. So pivoting to social media has been the biggest silver lining, I guess, that's improved my skills on Twitter. And through other programming that we have had with OMAFRA and the Healthy Lake Huron group. I also sit on that group and a director with the GBSS Net. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Joanne. So Katie and then Lauren. I know Katie's having issues with her internet, so we'll see. Yeah, we're not hearing you, Katie. If you are able, maybe type it into the chat. Next up, Lauren and then Mari. After Lauren.
Hey everyone, my name is Lauren Dye. I'm the Watershed Management Coordinator with Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council. I've only been there for about 3 weeks. I would say that the silver lining for all of this, I think all of you had really good answers for that. But I would also say that driving less, I think, is been a good thing.
Thanks, Lauren. Welcome to the team. Next up, Mari, and followed by Meg.
Hi, I'm Mary Valise, and I work for Asabo Bayfield Conservation Authority. I'm not sure how much folks from the other side of the border understand about conservation authorities, but we are watershed management organizations that actually have a role with floodplain and shoreline management, and we have conservation areas. Probably the second largest owner of land in Southern Ontario, collectively the conservation authorities, and we run private land stewardship. For my area, it's about 2,400 kilometers square. The silver lining for me of some of this has been a willingness or a more complete understanding of wicked problems by the general public. And I know that before talking to people, about science or graphs, I don't think people really had that much of an idea about what flattening the curve might look like. And I think we all have a pretty good idea about what flattening the curve looks like now. So I think that some of those more wicked problems, if you will, I think we're beginning to have a better understanding of that as society. So thanks for the invitation today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Meg, and then Megan.
Hello, everybody. Meg Schwartz here. I am going to wear two hats, so I'll do my first hat first, and then I'll go into my other hat. But first, I am the founder of Great Lakes Great Responsibility, which is a nonprofit that inspires people to take action on behalf of the Great Lakes, particularly around litter removal, and our Great Lakes 1 Million Challenge, an effort to remove 1 million pieces of litter from the Great Lakes Basin. A silver lining in that respect is it's in its infancy still. So this effort, this nonprofit started last November, and due to having a little bit of extra time during COVID, I had the bandwidth to put some energy into getting this started. So that's been a silver lining to get that effort started. And then my other hat, I'm the network coordinator for the Northeast Michigan Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative, which helps foster place-based education with youth in Northeast Michigan. So that's been, a wild ride adapting to COVID considerations there too. But I'll probably just echo what Brandon said, that seeing the environmental leaders that have, come out and still been resilient, even with COVID, has been really awesome too.
Thanks, Meg. We'll go to Megan, and then we'll try Katie again since I see she popped back on.
Okay, sounds great. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Goss, and like Brandon, I also serve as a Sea Grant Extension educator, but in the Saginaw Bay region of Michigan. So a little farther south, but yes, have to show off the hand. Michigan Sea Grant is part of a national college program that's supported by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And we work to enhance the sustainable use of the Great Lakes through research, education, and outreach. And we have 4 focus areas: sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, environmental literacy and workforce development, healthy coastal ecosystems, and resilient communities and economies. And I guess my silver lining from the pandemic is we were able to have a little bit more time to build up some skills when I think about technology and implementation of that. So I'm really excited to apply those skills as we shift our work back to hopefully a post-COVID life soon.
Thanks, Megan. All right, so Katie, and then we'll hear from Natasha.
Okay, hopefully I'll stay on cue here. I'm Katie Wolf, and I serve as the liaison for the Friends of Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary on behalf of the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and also coordinate community outreach. And the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary covers 4,300 square miles of Lake Huron, and then the shorelines as well. And so our primary focus is on what's estimated. Well, there's estimated to be over 1,000 shipwrecks, but we have identified 100 shipwrecks in the Lake Huron area. And so we see that as an underwater museum, protecting those shipwrecks and sharing these archaeological treasures with our community, but also as being part of NOAA and one of only 14 national marine sanctuaries in the nation, the only one experience. While our museum has been closed and is still closed, we have been able to start our shipwreck cruises up as of last weekend, and we are working with schools to plan those in the next couple of weeks before school is completely out. And we also, I think the big part is with stormwater management. We have been working with Huron Pines, and I think if they're not on the roof today, they should be finishing up the stormwater project. We have been expanding our green roof. The NOAA building that we are in is one of the only Gold LEED certified buildings in Northeast Michigan. And so we are always looking for new ways to make our footprint, reduce our carbon footprint. And one of those ways is through stormwater management. In addition to expanding the green roof, we are redoing our parking in campus, and we'll also include in working again with Huron Pines, some permeable surface for the parking lots and rain gardens and some other components there that will make our footprint healthier.
Katie,
so
what's the silver
we also
lining?
have our silver lining with the webinars. Have also, yeah, we have lots.
Thanks, Katie. We'll go to Natasha and then Stuart.
Natasha, you're muted.
Would you like me to go? I'm with Natasha, with her organization. I'll start and then hopefully Natasha comes back on screen. So we're with the Bogatawatt Alliance. It's an Indigenous-led and managed environmental group in the northern part of Southern Ontario and in South King and Anishinaabe. And silver lining for us, I think, is that we're getting to have a lot of time having fun online. So that's it's been particularly, like, if you ever watch Natasha's Facebook, or she's just gotten into TikTok, she has an Aquaman and Mara action figures that play down at the water every day with the rocks and the waves, and people get to kind of see what it's like outside. And we're trying to help people. That's been our silver lining, at least for me.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Stuart, and then we'll wrap it up with Ted.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stuart Reed. I'm Executive Director at Community Foundation Grey Bruce. We're one of the 3 partners on the Lake Huron Forever initiative. And our community foundation is based in Owen Sound, Ontario, shorts of Georgian Bay. And our catchment area is all of Grey and Bruce. So we stretch a lot along the Lake Huron shoreline, all the way from Kincardine up to Tobermory and all the way over to Town of Blue Mountains on the other side. And we manage about $18 million in endowed assets, and we grant back to charities and not-for-profits addressing all areas of community well-being in our region. And so silver lining of the pandemic, it's kind of, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is I think people have really engaged with the natural environment during this period. I think that the trails and the shorelines and the outdoor spaces that we have in Bounty here have really been a tonic for people in terms of finding a way to find some peace and restoration during these months of lockdown and closures and isolation. And I think that really bodes well, for a good kind of collective stewardship of not just of our waters, but of our shared open spaces and wilderness and all the other creatures that enjoy those spaces too. So I hope that we're going to see you know, that continued appreciation of the natural world as we move out of the pandemic, and maybe that'll translate into philanthropic gifts too. So we have more funds to help us support some of the great work that your organizations do on the ground.
Thanks, Stuart. Ted, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ted Lind. I'm the Director of Community Conservation for the Saginaw Basin Land Conservancy. We serve the Saginaw Basin. So it's one of the larger watersheds in Michigan, feeding Lake Huron. So we have over 6,000 acres of land under protection through our organization, either through conservation easements or nature preserves that are owned by us that we open to the public. I guess our silver lining, I think, is you know, there's been a lot of great things that I think are true for our organization as well, but we have seen this kind of outdoor work season kicking off for us. We've seen a strong resurgence of our volunteer base, definitely people eager to, you know, do activities outside that are, you know, safe and socially distant and so on. So we've had no problem at all finding volunteers to come help us with our work. One of our main projects is in the city of Saginaw, where we're helping remediate vacant land and illegal dumping. So it requires a strong army of volunteers to help us with that work. So we've had several big cleanups along the Saginaw River already this year, and put several hundred trees in the ground with our volunteers as well. So it's been I guess that's my silver lining.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for everyone for introductions. And I know Barry's looking at his watch, so I guess we'll move on. But Barry, Lee, Abby, you already introduced yourself, but if you'd like to share your silver lining, maybe put it in the chat. Otherwise, I think we're moving over. Lee's going to launch a couple polls, and then we'll take a quick few-minute break.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, well, it would behoove us to have everyone in one room to get a little bit of information from everyone and see where we're trending. So, and by the way, my silver lining for this has just been it's been to see skills of resilience. So it started off with sourdough, and then moving on to like backyard gardening.
Yes to the gardening.
Yeah. Here we go. So there should be 2 questions in front of you, I believe. Maybe a bit of jumble at the bottom, but I'll read them out for you. We would just like to know your 1 or 2 areas where we need to do or we need better support for green infrastructure and stormwater management. You can pick 1 or 2 of these. And if you choose other, please put the comment in the chat. And then the second question we need is what 1 strength does your organization bring to the table? That could be shared across the region, Ontario and Michigan. And again, if the 5 there aren't reflective, then hit other. This time, so to clarify, you can pick 1 or 2 of the first question there. That's the areas that need to be better supported. And
does everybody see the polls?
And question number 2, yeah, we're getting some voting coming in. That's good. Question number 2, just pick 1 of question number 2. What strength? And thanks for participating as number 3. We've got half the people voted. So take your time, think about it, and I'll stop talking. Great. We need 3 more people, but 1 of those is probably me. So I'll shut it off in 5-10 seconds. Great. Thank you for that. We'll show them on the screen. Looks like a lot of people feel that we need better support in raising political awareness of green infrastructure. And honorable mentions to developing long-term maintenance approach, connecting with experienced engineers, and improving communication across communities. And as for strengths in the room, got a lot of, like I said, a lot of major players here. Looks like a lot of people are into outreach and education today. And we've got a bunch of grant writers in the room as well. So thanks for that, and I look forward to further chat, further comments in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Lee, and thanks, Samantha, for bringing us through the introductions. We'll just take a couple of minutes for people to refresh themselves, and then we will start with our presentations. So just take 5, and we'll see you in 3 minutes. people are dribbling back in, so that's a good thing. Our timing is going fine. We're a couple of minutes behind, but next up is really a very important part of what we're doing here today, is hearing in a little bit more detail about just some of the projects and work that people are doing around the region. And what I want to do first of all is apologize to those people that I know are out there with fabulous projects that really, it would be great to have, you know, a longer time and a different platform to just focus on all the great projects. So I think that's one of our objectives with Lake Huron Forever, is really to develop a good platform that a lot of these projects can be shared on, so that we don't have to drive to Michigan to learn about stormwater management. We can, you know, we can share these resources online, and certainly there's ways of doing that currently, but I think we're identifying an opportunity to meet a need to do more sharing, especially in these times of increased extreme weather events and that sort of thing. So just with reference to our agenda, we're now into the case study presentations. We've got 5 different people on board today, and the original agenda had a certain order. We've strategically organized the first 3 presentations to be Joanne from about the stormwater management system, Samantha, but we've moved Bruce Davidson up to be part of those first 3, and those first 3 are designed to be programs for youth education, and each presenter will talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to, in a couple of the situations with Joanne and Bruce, our organization has sponsored some video clips that haven't been released yet, so you get the first view of these videos. I won't play the whole video, I'll cut them off partway in, and so that but those videos are now, will be available on YouTube for you to share across the border and to your own classes and that sort of thing. So youth education has obviously been identified as very important. So, and the other thing I'm going to be doing is sharing a screen. So as I say, the first 3, Joan Harbinson, Samanthanellis, and Bruce Davidson, and then we'll have a short 5-minute Q&A on them, and then Elizabeth Thorne from the Biosphere Association and Heather Sargent from Georgian Bay Forever will finish up. And by that time, it should be 3:45 or 3:55, close to 4 o'clock, and we'll have a couple of wrap-up questions. So, everybody okay with that? Joanne, you ready to roll?
Sure, yep.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and then start the video. Or how about you give it a little intro to the video on the Clean Water Center?
Yeah, that's probably better, because then you'll have to pause and so on. So as Barry mentioned, what you'll see in the next video is something that we have done numerous times at the Waukegan Clean Water Center with high school children, students that come, and we give them the full day's work through on water. The Waukegan Clean Water Center was constructed, and Bruce would know this better, a number of years ago, and was one of the results of the recommendations from the review after the Waukegan tragedy, and Connor's recommendations. It's established as a leading facility for training personnel under the water umbrella, whether it's in terms of septic system and sewage disposal, as well as drinking water system reviews and certification. And so when they built this facility, they made sure they did as much as they could to recognize the LEADS program. And I can't remember what the acronym they stand for, but leadership and environment and lots of other good things, trying to make themselves a leader in the building, and with regards to accommodating and using, making sure that they can use their water and reduce runoff and nutrients as best they could from their site. So do their part at their location. So what you'll see myself kind of giving the overview of the Clean Water Center and what they've done on their site, and trying to connect children, the students, with the various careers that go into water.
Okay, here we go.
Barry, just before we roll into that, I think what it indicated was we had a great lack, and this is across North America, in proper training for our water operators. So every operator in Ontario has to be certified through that center, either directly or remotely. But then it also showed, and we'll talk about this later, is the lack of awareness of even the operators of source protection and natural solutions. So with that, let her rip.
I'm not getting any audio.
I'm not either.
I have a tip for the presenter. Can you stop and share again, Barry?
Yep.
Share again, but when you hit the share button at the very bottom of your which window should I pick pop up, you'll see a click box that says share sound. So click share screen and make sure there's a tick box that's ticked for share sound, and share it again.
Great.
I'm walking in a low point, and I'm going to describe what that low point means.
Perfect.
So the Clean Water Center, before they developed their property, they had to generate a stormwater management plan. And I have a copy here, which you'll be able to see sometime. So a stormwater management plan is a plan that does that. It deals with stormwater, and that means the water coming from impermeable surfaces such as the pavement, the rooftop, the sidewalks. So anything where water cannot drain into the ground and cannot get through the impermeable surface, and therefore has to run over the ground. When a development happens, they have to take care of the water leaving the site just as if it was not, the buildings and the pavement and sidewalks were not here. And so as part of this stormwater management plan, they have to have engineers involved who direct contractors to implement the plan. The plan includes elevations, design work, and tells a contractor exactly how to develop and establish the grades. So from the pavement here, you can see the gravel, and you can also see a washout. So the flow path, water always flows from upstream to downstream, or from a sloped area, is coming through this area, and you can also see all the sediment that's washing down. So this is important to collect the sediment and the water so that it doesn't reach our creeks and waterways untreated. So water flows downstream. The elevation plans that are developed as part of a stormwater management plan are bringing water downstream. You can see around here, you can see the top of the elevations, the berms, where the water is going to direct itself down into the low point. And in that low point, the water will be conveyed through a pipe system. So as we walk down through this system, and you can see that I'm going down into the valley, I'm going into the bottom of the valley where it's now I'm further down slope in elevation than I was before, the water is being brought in here. And below this low point, this valley, there is a pipe, and in the ground, probably 1.5 meters below, the pipe in the ground is conveying the water that's reaching it to a pipe system. So stormwater management, collecting water from areas that are now paved, that are impermeable, not allowing water to infiltrate down through the soil, and collecting it to a point of sufficient outlet, same as when it was before. So imagine this area as all grass, where you see all the buildings, and now we have all the buildings And the Clean Water Center is dealing with that water in a fashion that is appropriate for the development. Okay, so part of the stormwater management plan that collects the water, elevations are critical for the plan to work and for the collection of water to work to a sufficient outlet. So you'll see the valley through here that we've walked through and we've seen water and sediment coming through. But a notable item here for the Clean Water Center is they've also handled or looking after some of their east trough and their rooftop water. So below the ground here, and you'll see some pipes, there are some cisterns. In the cisterns is that captured water from the rooftop, and they're recycling or reusing that water. So instead of using water that's treated at an expensive rate from the municipality, they collect this extra water that flows off the roof into pipes and into cisterns or large tanks below the ground. Those large tanks below the ground are then connected to the washrooms where they flush the toilets, and is not potable water, but is used for design, for flushing of the toilets and things that we don't need to drink from, because it's important that we keep those separate. So a very interesting component from the Clean Water Center to include that, as well as looking at this collection of water that they have for the stormwater management. So as we walk downslope again, water flow, urban watershed in this little valley being collected, and it's coming to some catch basins. And as I described before, not only is this a surface inlet for water that's coming off the ground, but there is a pipe in the ground as well, and it's coming to these two catch basins. Behind me, you'll see an elevation of land. So I'm in the trench, I'm in the low point, the swale. We have the catch basins, and you can see it rise. So when the engineer designs his stormwater management area, he has to accommodate for all kinds of storms and all kinds of levels of water. So with the catch basins here, water's coming in, but this area also allows for extreme events to come up and stay within this valley, this sloped area, without affecting the driveway too. So we've got our own little system here going into the pipe, and we're going to follow these pipes downstream across the access road to the Clean Water Center into their stormwater management pond. So
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
I'm just trying to stop the video. Okay, sorry about that. But that, as I said in the chat, the balance of the video will be available online. And it just gives you a sample of what Joanne and her crew are working on to make these videos available online to educate young people and share the good information about groups like the Clean Water Center. So next up, Samanthanellis is going to talk about her place-based program. So over to you, Samantha. And she's sharing her screen.
Okay, Barry?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so today I decided to talk about our efforts in Aubrey, Michigan, and the community-driven conservation that's happened there, with a focus on stormwater management. So as Abby mentioned, it's one of the smallest cities in our service area, but they sure have a big spirit and have been kind of our pilot community for a lot of initiatives. And I'll also kind of dive in a little bit more on the school programming that has been so positive and inspiring. So I chose to talk about this community and this project because of the specific connections to the action agenda that Lake Huron Forever has, and that engage, activate, sustain model that we've used. It's also a great example of the team effort. A few of the people that are on this call today with Michigan Sea Grant and the Northeast Michigan Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative, definitely a lot of amazing people working on this project to make it happen. So one of the first things that we do with a community is, gather this data, community input, and get that written down. So Huron Pines developed a stormwater assessment for the city that was wrapped up in 2019. So really looked at where the stormwater is going, what it's doing, where are the problem areas, and what are recommendations. Michigan Sea Grant also did sustainable small harbors, charrette and report, and tipping points, which have been really great documents for gaining community input. And I put this picture on the bottom right because we've seen in this community and other communities that these kind of artistic renderings of what people want it to look like have actually taken us pretty far for leveraging funding and support for projects. And then finally, some curriculum overlay with engaging with the school age students. So from there, we, just tried to be out in the community as much as we could, raising awareness, building relationships, multiple city council meetings. Huron Pines and our other partners that I mentioned did several classroom presentations and brainstorm sessions, mostly via Zoom, but and then a lot of them dealing with the Agri Sim high school environmental class. There are other grade levels that we're engaged with, but I'm going to kind of highlight this one. So the picture on here was taken at a student-led community visioning session where the students were able to take what they learned and pass that on to their community members, and also gain some input from them on what they wanted to see in some of these public spaces that we were talking about. So that was really fun to see them take this community action into their own hands. And for those of you not in this, K through 12 kind of realm, we refer to this as place-based stewardship education. So I wanted to just kind of share the philosophy there, that it's not just, these lectures and lessons and meetings, that we really try to give the kids hands-on experience out in their community, and aware of their local ecosystems, and teaching them environmental stewardship practices. But they're also based heavily on curriculum standards. Like it says here, it's more than just a field trip. So they're carefully designed. And I really love watching the kids develop through these projects that they take on, and kind of come to this realization that they are a community member with a voice, and they can drive some of these changes, and also, introducing that stewardship philosophy early on. So, after a lot of that engagement, so we're activating these projects. Are students are centered around student leadership and student voice and choice. So you can see in these images, we've done some green infrastructure, research and things like that. Now they are out planning their own green infrastructure installments. So doing some soil surveys, measuring flow. They can estimate volume of water coming off of their parking lots and rooftops. So they're essentially being the engineers. Through that development of the project, they're using math, engineering, biology, especially with their plant selection, communications, and then some of that social science when they're talking about how it's affecting the nearby communities. So the best part, I think, for all of us, including the students, is they get to get their hands dirty again at the end and install these green infrastructure solutions. So this rain garden was installed and is designed to capture runoff from the school roof and the parking lot. The lower right picture was taken last fall. So all of the native species that they had planted were thriving. Also wanted to put their sign that they have up out at the garden, which they're pretty proud of. I think it turned out really nice, so they got to do a little graphic design with that as well. The following year, the students similarly went through green infrastructure, research and design. And then unfortunately, we weren't able to bring the class out there to do the final installation of the plants. So these pictures here where the city staff installed their design, and then the planting was done socially distanced by volunteers of all ages. And it's hard to tell, but the students did design, the square footage and estimated the amount of volume it could handle. And, underneath the soil are multiple layers of, crushed gravel and sand and compost to not only increase infiltration and support the plants, but also increase the storage capacity of that bioswale, which is located at a city park right on the Aubrey River, which is just a short ride down to Lake Huron. So next steps, we are, through all of these great partnerships, we've secured funding over the next couple of years. We'll be working with the city to install 6 bioswales in a identified drainage area where we have a lot of runoff, a lot of nutrients entering the water there. And then we'll be able to engage with the students in that process too, bringing them out with the engineer on that. And they'll be choosing native plants to put in the garden. We'll also be engaging additional educators and students from, beyond just environmental science class to some of the other programs at school. They'll be dabbling in things like web design, writing, communication, and community outreach. We'll also be continuing to support the greenhouse programming, which is great. And the school just announced today they are able to host their very first native plant sale. So that's really great. And oops, sorry. 1 minute. All right, Barry. And some web page design and story mapping, media kit. So we've got a lot in the works and a lot of things that are going to be sustaining that and a lot of great funders there. Last slide here. At the end of that, we are hoping that Lake Huron Forever will be that Aubrey will be the first to take the Lake Huron Forever pledge. So we're working on developing that, what it means. We'll have documentation of their dedication to protecting Lake Huron, having some identifiers around the town, and basically giving them a roadmap to sustain protection efforts tailored to their specific community. But we're hoping that they are just the first of many to take this pledge and prioritize Lake Huron in their planning and resource allocation. And then just another shout out to all of our great partners, the city, the school district, Sea Grant, and the Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative, Northeast Michigan. Also, when putting this slideshow together, Megan Goss, who's on the call, is a huge reason why a lot of this happened. And I heard she even has a bench named after her in the park where we put the bioswale now. So I just wanted to shout out for her because without her, this wouldn't have happened. So yeah, and my contact info is at the bottom. Feel free to contact me anytime if you'd like to hear more about our projects here in Michigan, our Lake Huron Forever philosophy, and how that ties into our overall programs at Huron Pines. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Samantha. That's great. And just a reminder that all of this information will be available online for all of you. So it's tough to get everything in all at once. But next up, we're going to ask Bruce Davidson to just introduce this next little video. I'll do 5 minutes of the video. And once I get my screen.
Eric, I'm just wondering if the video is as jerky as the other one. Do you want me to just describe stuff, or do you want to see how it plays?
The other one was, okay, well, let me just see how it plays. I'll share the screen. The other, I didn't realize the other one was jerky, but I guess maybe it was. Just let me share.
It'll be even jerkier. But
let me just try it.
I'm Bruce Davidson, Chair of Brockton's Environmental Advisory Committee, and I'm here today with Joan Harbinson from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. And this is part of our Career Works series that we are doing digitally because of the current conditions. So today we're going to be looking at waterworks, which involves the drinking water that we consume and also the environmental health and its relationship to water. So Joanne, one of the major concerns we have going forward with climate change is the increase in intense weather events and extreme rain events, which we've experienced all over the country and in Walkerton. What are some of the main factors with urban flooding that we see as a result of that?
Yeah, that's correct, Bruce. Our changing climate certainly is having an impact on all of us. We are experiencing more frequent storms that are going in longer duration, shorter durations, and causing a greater intensity of rainfall. The rainfall that's coming to us under these conditions, the capacity for our cities and our municipalities to handle this rainfall is becoming a challenge. Infrastructure in the ground doesn't necessarily handle all the water that's coming in, and the rivers and creeks are also experiencing increased erosion because of the lack of infiltration due to the increase in permeable surfaces.
So as we continue to build rooftops and pavements and sidewalks and all those things that don't accept the water, that's a big part of the challenge that we face?
Continuing to increase the lands covering by sidewalks, by pavement, and reducing that impermeable surfaces is going to increase in the overland flow of our runoff. And it's going to cause problems not just to people living in the communities, but also to our creeks and rivers.
So today we're at Walkerton's Community Garden, and we're going to look at a possible solution to that with a different form of ground covering that allows the water to not run over the top, but go back into the soils. So we'll head into the garden and have a look.
Excellent.
So one of the challenges we faced with our community garden is that many of our members are aging and having mobility issues. That might mean that they are using canes or walkers or just not as secure as they once were on their feet. So the solution to that was to create a ground covering that would allow them to access the garden in any of those devices, a walker, a wheelchair, or using a cane. And what we can see with the Eco-Rouster grid is it allows them to do just that. Unlike grass or loose mulch or just loose gravel, which would bog down and create a trip hazard, we've answered that problem. So we've used the Eco-Rouster product in the garden, and you can see that it is completely open to water permeability. So if you look at that and we place this in the ground and click it together like Lego, what we'll have is a situation where we fill it with gravel, and that water falling on this is not going to puddle or pond. If we have heavy snowfall in the winter, what typically happens is the snow will fall, the sun will come out, melt the snow, and at night on a paved surface, it will freeze, or on a sidewalk, it will freeze. In this case, it's going to go right through. So what we're going to do is look at a demonstration that shows you the difference between the ability of a product like this to accept the water and have it travel right back to the ground as compared to surfaces that simply won't do that. And that's our paved surfaces and our sidewalks. We're going to simulate what would happen if we had an extreme weather event by pouring water directly onto this paved surface and see what happens. And And you can see that the water is running to the edge of the parking lot, but none of it is actually returning to the soil. This will eventually make its way to a catch basin and then into our rivers and streams. But if there's too much, it's going to head for the nearest basement or building that's vulnerable first, costing thousands of dollars and in some cases millions, and threatening human health and safety if the flood is severe enough. So now we're going to look at the difference when we pour the water onto the eco-rouster grid. And you can see that within seconds, that's returned into the soil where it can be absorbed throughout any area that's covered with this grid, and it's not going to cause the same level of damage at all, flooding, or any of those terrible outcomes that we see when water has no place to go but basements and buildings. So we're here again in Walkerton's community garden, and we're looking at our green roof tabletop demonstration unit. And I want to start just by talking about the different layers that are involved in creating this green roof. It's very important that if you have any kind of roof structure, that it be sealed against water infiltration into the building or the home below it. So the first layer is rubberized, and that will stop water from getting through. Then we have a second layer on top of that, which is a fabric that will stop root penetration, because of course if that happened, you'd ultimately get damage and water coming in as well. The third layer that we're looking at is a unique soil mixture that will host the sedum that will be grown on top of it. And then finally we have our sedum, which is a multitude of variety of sedum plants which are very, very hardy and will hold water and retain it, which is exactly what we want to do.
And then we were all killed.
Okay, thank you, Bruce, for filling in there while I was clicking buttons. And so maybe just to wrap up, Bruce, just give us a bit of a summary of the kind of work that, like 1 minute, the kind of work that you, through your municipal work and the sustainability network, just wrap it up a little bit for us.
Okay, so that was a bit of a taste of what we would do in a waterworks program. We've been doing them for about 12 years, and it's to introduce kids to those industries as possible career options and looking at youth retention, which is really important in our rural communities. The other thing that we look at is the hands-on component in these days. So we look at the green roof, we have them install some eco-rouster grid. We do work with rain gardens, water testing, and sampling. And we stress to the kids that the eco-rouster, for example, not just a good idea for the stormwater management, but actually in our area, it's a good solution right from the start. The footprint is very small. We collect the film plastic that it's made out of right here in Walkerton, tons and tons of it every year. Shipped about 10 kilometers where it's baled for shipping, then just goes down the road to near Waterloo, Ontario and Listowel, where it is then pelletized as it's recycled and goes 2 whole kilometers down to the factory that makes the eco-rouster back to us.
So it's a local product.
Yeah.
And it uses film plastic.
Yeah, single use, 90% recycled plastic, single use, made into a durable good that can be recycled years later.
Yeah.
So getting the kids to do it, to install it, is fantastic. I just want to say 2 other things. One about the styrofoam, great on the dock work. We recycle, every municipality in Bruce County is now recycling styrofoam at the rate of probably about 60 tractor loads a year. The water log stuff, we cannot do anything with it. It's pure garbage. So good work there. Just a quick word on the practical side. Riverstone Retreat, just outside Durham, Ontario, we're installing eco-rouster. We have in the last couple of years installed about 7,000 square feet of this material in gardens, pathways, and around rivers edges, parking lots, that sort of thing. And that center is featuring, and we'd like to host meetings there when we can do it in person. We've got solar, 2 types of solar, rainwater harvesting, natural residential building structures, lots of work going in on agricultural development and restorative agriculture with hookah culture, water resilience, all kinds of good things. And we're going to make that available to community groups at an extremely reasonable or no cost at all.
Yeah, and that's great, Bruce, because there's a it's a great community feel at Riverstone Retreat, and there's lots of good projects going on there. So next up, Elizabeth Thorne from the Bruce Peninsula Biosphere Association, and I noticed you were started to share your screen there, Liz. So if you could just take over and tell us a little bit about what's going on up the peninsula.
Okay, happy to do that. Yeah, we've got it going.
Sure.
So first of all, let me talk about the Biosphere Association. We are a 20-year-old environmental charity focused on conservation and sustainable development and building the community's capacity and commitment to both. We have, as I mentioned in the introduction, seems like a while ago now, in 2012, we started on water quality projects, and we were focused principally on 4 things. First, getting cattle out of the streams, or as my farmer friends say, providing alternative watering sources for the cattle. And we have now provided about 70 alternative watering systems with over 5,500 cattle out of the streams. We've installed about 17 kilometers of fencing. We also then had the experience where farmers would say, no, it's not us that's causing water quality issues, it's those cottagers, and the cottagers would say, no, it's the farmers. So we did a bit of caffeine testing and found that there was caffeine in the water. Since cows don't drink caffeine, we knew that there was some type of septic system issue, in addition to other types of evidence that we had collected. And so we worked on improving septic systems, both understanding for our many cottagers from the city as to how to properly maintain a septic system. But we also found that a major issue related to the fact that they did not have the money or would not make the money available to repair their septic system. We don't have a conservation authority up in the Northern Bruce, so there's no septic inspection program. So as a result, we've had systems that we've pulled out of the ground. They're simply oil tanks, rusted out. So today, by the end of this year, I guess we'll have facilitated the replacement of 50 systems, each with an incentive of $4,000. Then we turned our attention to shoreline stewardship, which I guess we've been doing for a while, and we did a demonstration rain garden. We did a number of things in terms of not hardening the shoreline and types like that, but with some success. But the third thing we worked on was soil erosion, and it was out of this particular project that we developed a partnership with Bulant Mutis of the University of Windsor, and he did the bioremediation of phosphorus, and we were very interested in that because it's an important issue. And so we became a test site for that. And out of that, as I said, was the outgrowth of Biosphere Environmental. So essentially, we have a partnership between the University of Windsor. We have a formal MOU signed, our organization, and also we have some industry partners. And Biosphere Environmental is designed to be a social enterprise in the longer term. It will be our second social enterprise. We recognize that government grants indeed are probably going to be more and more difficult to get in the future. So we, about 4 or 5 years ago, we created our first social enterprise, which was essentially an eco-adventure tour company, and that has been running and developing. And so Biosphere Environmental will be our second. Our mission is to reduce agriculturally based nutrient loading into watercourses, applying leading edge research on bioremediation. So we've had 5 years of lab and field research research, mostly the professors. There is a grad student, David who I should mention, who's also been instrumental in this research. So we needed to do some field testing before commercialization. And so what are these products that we're developing? Well, the first is a filtration device for high levels of phosphorus, the second for low levels of phosphorus, and third, a handheld device that will enable us to test immediately if there's phosphorus in the water. So we took these ideas of the filtration device for low levels of phosphorus and a control device for drainage tiles and combined them into one device. And so we thought, well, if this is going to be a business, we need to understand what possible sources there would be for this particular product that is going to bioremediate phosphorus. And I think most of you on this call realize that when nutrient-laden water from a variety of sources shown here, I don't have to go into depth with this group, it affects human health, fisheries, and tourism-based industries. So it's pretty important to improve water quality, and we feel that this is this bioremediation is a very useful way to do it. So in 2018, Bielant and David his grad student, found that tomato roots that they recovered from greenhouses can bind large amounts of soluble phosphorus. That led to the publication of a paper in a prestigious journal that showed that plant roots were removing 70.8% of the phosphorus. Since then, it's the Journal of Environmental Management in case anyone's interested. So we knew then that we had a potential product that would deal with phosphorus. And we know, for example, that there's many government guidelines related to phosphorus and nitrate levels in watercourses. Obviously, the IJC has highlighted that excess phosphorus is a major concern. There's lots of action by government. There's been tremendous investment, again, by government on encouraging best management practices by farmers and others in terms of the management of their nutrients. But none of those have been producing 100% results. And so we felt that our bioremediation product, which is proven and cost effective, would offer a direct way to remove point source phosphorus. So we decided to focus on tile drains. And many of you know that this is the amount of land that is tile drained in Southern Ontario, and it's extensive. So if we were able to attach the apparatus with the biofiltration material into it at the end of the tile drains, and they remove the phosphorus, then we would be providing a tremendous service and also potentially generating a revenue stream for the biosphere. So the first device, which was using the tomato roots, was essentially a simple tank, and it was installed. And the second device is our secret sauce, if you like. It's a filtration matrix that is produced, and we've actually taken it out of the laboratory and produced it with the professors on in the Northern Bruce, and that we produced 500. I can't remember the metric, but anyways, significant amount, and 400 of it was placed in the Lower Thames Conservation Authority test. And we also then, one of our vice chair, who is also a farmer and a science teacher, John Rogers, was able to develop an apparatus for the tile drains, and the biofiltration material now fits into this apparatus that sits in the tile drain and removes the phosphorus. And the amount of phosphorus that's being removed is deemed significant, though we are still doing further testing. Indeed, we are now moving from field scale production into producing the biofiltration material, at the ton scale. And we have an industry partner who is working with us on this. The grand vision, and it is a grand vision, is to create an industry cluster here in the Northern Bruce that will provide employment tied to a research facility, and we will then be able to create the biofiltration material and ship it where it's needed, along with the filtration devices that John has designed. So
Liz, we got
where
1
are
minute.
we? Sorry?
Got 1 minute.
Okay, fine. So the bottom line is that we are approaching various funders, and we have approached the Great Lakes Protection Fund. They're interested, and we are actually, I'm due to send them more information. So, so this bioremediation of phosphorus, I think, has great merit, and I can provide you with more information if you like on this is actually original research that we're doing, and we're now taking it out of the lab into the commercialization phase.
Okay. Sorry to spend so little time on such a fabulous project, and I can say that about all the presentations that we've had to date, that we could definitely spend a lot more time.
Yeah.
But I think
yes, I noticed, Dan.
Well, I know, and that's just the reality of our timing. But I think also yours has been recorded, so the slides will be available. If it's okay with you, they'll be available online, and people can contact you directly. I know you're doing presentations yourself about this project, obviously, so that's great. Thanks very much. And finally, last but not least at all, Heather Sargent from Georgian Bay Forever is going to do a presentation here on stormwater drains and plastics and washing machine filters. And then so that we finish on time, we're not going to have a lot of time for questions. I encourage you to put your questions in the chat box, which are going to be recorded, and we can follow up. All our partners are on an email loop, so we'll stay connected. And over to you, Heather.
Just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Okay, excellent.
I can.
Okay, I'm Heather Sargent, just as a reintroduction from Georgian Bay Forever. Today, I'm just going to talk to you about programs that use devices to divert plastic litter in the hopes that you can maybe think about using them for your community leaders, or talking to municipalities about them, or when we come to the end of the results, sharing our results so that we can sort of mass scale these results to affect policy and behavior change. Anyways, the first one that I'm going to talk about is our Diversion 2.0 project. The whole idea is to reduce waste and litter, and drive that reduction through physical removal and through increasing awareness and education to the public and policymakers, and to promote a circular economy. There's many components to this program and many goals, which are right here, but I'm not going to go into all of them. What I'm going to focus on is we're going to capture around 6,500 kilograms of litter. And how we're going to do that is by using these technological devices, gutter bins, trash traps, and sea bins. We do not make these, by the way, but I'm going to go over a little bit about what these are about. So we're looking at installing these in about 18 different locations around Georgian Bay. The red represents where the sea bins are, the green is where the gutter bins are, and then we have 2 trash traps, which are going to be in Penetanguishene and Parry Sound. And the first one I'm going to talk to you about is the gutter bin. What is a gutter bin? Well, each bin can collect an estimated 100 kilograms of garbage per year. The gutter bin has the capability of having what they call like a mundus bag under it. It's designed to allow water to drain from the streets, even if it becomes completely full, therefore ensuring that there is no flooding. The estimated lifespan of these is about 25 years, with replacing the mundus bag every 3 to 6 months, depending on the amount of and types of garbage, etc. So we're installing about 8 of these in Collingwood very soon, and we're going to also periodically examine the garbage that is collected and be able to use that as data. But you can see how this works, and I think it'll be a very good tool for collecting some of the garbage before it gets into our waterways. The next one I'm going to very quickly describe is, of course, trash traps. Trash traps, and we're going to be installing 2, one in Penetangwisheen area, I believe, and one in Parry Sound. These use Stormex netting that is engineered with reusable grade netting to capture pollutants and to handle powerful stormwater runoff. They're attached to the end of stormwater outfall pipes. And as we know, these pipes collect water, organic material, and pollution from roadway runoff and move it to stormwater retention ponds or directly into our waterways. So this helps collect some of those, and it collects it down to the 25 millimeter size. Since these are quite large, they don't need to be emptied as frequently as some of the other devices that I'm going to be talking about. We believe that we are going to be the first ones to install this possibly in Canada in these 2 areas. So we'll be looking out for that. These happen to be quite expensive, but with our municipal partners and our granting, we've been able to work towards using that. And the third one that I'm going to talk about is sea bins. These really capture the pollutants after they get into the water. We're installing about 8 of these throughout those various places in Georgian Bay. These units act as a floating garbage bin, and they skim the surface water by pumping water into the device, and they sort of capture the debris. They can capture an estimated 1,400 kilograms of floating debris each year, and they have about a 20 kilogram catch bag. They're estimated to last about 10 years, and with the filter bag replacement to be done every three years. And all of these do require some maintenance. This one probably more maintenance than some of the others, but we're working with our partners, etc., our municipal partners or our park partners to empty these. And then we're working with volunteers to analyze exactly what the litter is. And we'll be using that information to drive policy and to change behaviors. So in conclusion, these devices are really important not only for diverting litter, but also for testing these technologies. Obviously, this doesn't solve the litter problem alone, but the data that we're going to be able to collect from these will be used to educate the public for behavior change and educate policymakers to stop some of the biggest culprits at source. And we have a number of really important partners and funders that I'd just like to acknowledge, but I can't, I think we're running out of time, so I don't have the time to read them out loud, but we have a number of municipal and park partners, as well as environment and climate change, and of course, our Georgian Bay Forever donors. The second thing that I really would like to talk to you about today, which is a little bit different from some of the others that you've heard, is our divert and capture, the fight to divert microplastics out of our water. And this is about physically diverting microplastics at source. I'm not going to go into some of the other components of this program, but I'm really going to focus on our Parry Sound pilot project because it's going to answer kind of a science question. Next slide, come on. So what are microfibers? Basically, they're anthropogenic strands that are less than 5 millimeters in size. They can be composed of synthetic materials or natural materials, and they're shed through the wear and tear of the laundering process. I mean, anywhere from kind of 90,000 per wash upwards to 700,000. I saw one study that said millions. These go down to wastewater treatment plants, the unsung heroes of water quality, and it removes 99% of up to 99% of microplastics, but that still leaves millions and millions of getting into our water and fresh water daily. And we know that microplastics don't biodegrade. They're persistent in the environment. And we know that much of our clothing, at least 60% worldwide, is made of plastics. So it's becoming kind of a real problem. And in the Great Lakes, there are levels of microfibers and microplastics that even exceed concentrations found in the ocean gyres, like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So this is a very fuzzy picture. But we know that this is also contaminating, wildlife. It's been found in Great Lakes fish, including lake trout, rainbow smelt, brown bullhead, all these microfibers. It's been found in our food sources, honey, salt, Great Lakes beer, tap water, bottled water, and more. So we really need to do something about it. What we're doing at Georgian Bay Forever is we've taken what the University of Toronto Rockman Lab found in lab studies, that a filter, which you can kind of see in the middle picture, it's an external filter, can remove up to 85% of microfibers from a wash load. So what we're doing is taking, which started in 2019, taking those filters, affixing them to 100 volunteer households in Parry Sound that are attached to one wastewater treatment plant. We're measuring the effluent before we put the filters on, and then during various stages of having this on there. And because that represents about 10% of the amount of households on this particular wastewater treatment plant, we're hoping to see a reduction in microfiber pollution that gets out into the water by at least 10%. And it's looking like it's going to be very successful. And we'll be using this information, which should be available, the finished study, in August, and taking it to policymakers as far as California, where they're starting legislation on this, Ontario, where there's already a private member's bill out there on this, and France already has existing rules on this. So this is very important way to reduce pollution, is putting these external filters on. They're unfortunately anywhere from $180 to $220, so they're not for everyone. So we'll be working towards taking the study, proving it out to legislators and legislators, and telling them that future washing machines need to have this built in. That you can definitely, take it to your communities and have them look at installing this. This is on my own particular washing machine.
Heather, that's an amazing collection of really literally hands-on things that people can share and do to really reduce pollution. So thanks very much and I apologize to everyone that we're running close to the end of time, but I think wrapping up at 4 is a good thing to do. And really all it's saying to me is there's so much more to do in terms of getting together, sharing information. I know in the chat box, Lee has posted our Grey Bruce Climate Action website, where you get to put project listings and your group listing there. And also, if you haven't filled out the slide deck, fill it out. But I think we're all connected through our email list at this point. The next round, I'll maybe pass it over to Samantha to just talk a little bit about the future of Lake Huron Forever. And I'll say my thank yous to all of you for showing up and presenting, and we'll see you next time. Over to you, Samantha.
Great, thanks, Barry. So we are going to be hosting Michigan team meeting in the fall. And now that everyone's kind of familiar with the initiative, we'll have, some case studies, but hoping to have a lot more breakout room discussion, sharing barriers, successes, funding sources, all of that at that time. So really appreciate you guys all coming today, and we will, like Barry said, follow up with contact info and some other documents for your reference, some kind of like frequently asked questions type things, and really great presentations. And I'm sure we'll all be communicating with with each other moving forward.
So
and please let us know too if there are other people that you think might want to get looped into Lake Huron Forever.
Perfect.
We are still happy to welcome everyone.
Yeah, we know there are, and really through any of these contacts or through the GB Susnet website, particularly the Climate Action website, you can connect with us there. I will continue to compile the email list for connections. So if you're on that list and you know other people that should be on that list, please just email me and we'll add it. And, you know, between now and the next, I'm going to say physical gathering, hope it won't be, it'll be online, but we may be able to gather in our own communities for a different kind of event. And all in all, thank you so much for coming. And now's the time typically that we would all go out together and celebrate in a patio. So if you've got a patio to go to it. I'm going to go to my backyard and sit by the river and thank everyone for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Barry, and I can stay on for a minute if anyone has any pressing things that they wanted to cover. So,
okay, yeah, if
Barry
anybody
and
wants formal meeting's over, anybody wants to hang around, hang around.
Thank you.
I won't end the meeting. See you, Stuart. Thanks for coming. Heather, you're still there.
Yeah, sorry, I am just looking at the chat just to, will we be able to see the chat?
Yeah, I do believe we've recorded the chat. Is that right, Sam?
Okay.
Yeah, it should have, and you guys can get a printout on your end, Barry. But actually, I'm just going to copy paste it because I know Abby had to duck out early and she'll want to see some of these comments. So I've got a document going for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you'll grab that. My printer's at my house.
Well, I'll let you guys relax. Thank you so much for doing that. That was really inspiring to hear about all the different things. So it was great.
Oh, it was great to connect, you know, because Heather, we've to this point really kind of been sticking to the Grey Bruce County side of things, but you know, and even the Georgian Bay concept, you know, I live on Georgian Bay. Georgian Bay is part of Lake Huron, but you know as well as I do, it's a big body of water that's its own entity from many perspectives. So it's great to connect you and with the other Georgian Bay, and you're Georgian Bay forever, and this is Lake Huron forever. So.
Yeah. Heather, have you been in contact with Paul Peretti? He manages the LAMP, Lakewide Area Management Plan from the Ontario side.
I mean, I personally haven't, but our executive director is, and I have communicated with Paul through email before. For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just know he's trying to gather a lot of input on projects and needs. So we're trying to get all of that written into the LAMP. You know, just go around. So.
Yeah, no, I know David's been on. David's our executive director. He's been on all of those calls and meetings and things. So I expect he's communicated what needs to be done.
Okay,
great.
Anyways, thank you guys. I'm sorry for holding you up.
No. I'm attentive. I like to finish on time, and there's
you did it.
Well, so many things
and you
to
cut me
squeeze
off,
in
which is perfect because I was glad.
Well, there's other people I tried to cut off, but I couldn't cut them off. So
you did. All right,
learning.
thanks so much, guys.
Okay, see ya. Sam, you're good?
Yeah, nice work, Barry. I think it went smoothly.
Not bad.
We just crammed it all into 2 hours.
Yeah, well, I was talking to somebody today and they said, I don't go on Zoom for more than 90 minutes anymore. Like 90 minutes is enough, you know? But clearly there's so much to cover and people can pop in and pop out. So, okay, so I'm going on a big hike tomorrow, so I'm not around, but I will have this recording and we'll figure out, you know, where to post it. But even those, like those individual videos that we have, and the slide decks, not the ones we were filling out, but the presentation decks, they'll be in the video, right? So
yeah, they'll be in the video.
Yeah.
You might want to see if like you or Lee can cut out, I don't know how it's going to look in the recording, but the videos were a little choppy. So it might be worth just cutting them out and sending the link.
Yeah, and because you know, literally what would happen is I scrolled on the screen and it would stop it.
Oh no.
Like on the image, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
and then I'd have to start it again. So it wasn't a bandwidth issue. I think it was me trying to do the chat room and trying to do other things, and then it would freeze it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's hard. Plus, we can cut this off of you and me talking, probably.
Oh yeah, I'll stop recording. It's funny because, oh, there it is. No, stop video. Stop recording. Pause recording.